What up, everybody? Welcome to Living Like a G with your host, G. And I'm excited today because I have my homeboy of, I think is it 7 years now?
7 years this month.
7 years. Wow. Holy crap. So, my boy, Michael Rickerby.
What's up? This is creepy, but I had a Facebook memory the other day, so I know for a fact it's been 7 years and 4 days.
Wow. That is mad creepy. I feel like the FBI is about to bang on your door because you just like had a hack. But yeah, Mike and I met. I'll give like a little backstory. Mike and I met at this program called the Contemporary Music Center. Shout out CMC. Um, we were the only two people. What's funny is we went to the same college. We didn't know each other. In college. Were you business in college too?
Yeah, I was business with a music tech minor.
Okay, cool. So, which is funny that you were a tech minor and I still never saw you.
Yeah, that's because I was a commuter and I didn't want to talk
Oh,
to anybody at school.
right. So I was a music major and we were just basically bound up in the music department. He was a business major, which was basically bound up in that department. And then he also was a commuter. So we never really saw each other. The one time we saw each other before this performance was we had to do like a little pre-meeting before going to the CMC at our school campus in Oklahoma. Okay. So we show up and I'm like, oh, this is the kid that's gonna be in the program. Maybe we can like bond together or like whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that was my only first experience with Mike. Then we end up at the CMC, we end up becoming friends and all these different things. And I think what'll be funny for us to start and kick this off is what our first impressions of like your first impression of me and my first impression of you.
Yes. Do you want
You
to go
want me to
first?
go first? Or you want you to go first?
Ladies first.
Sexist. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, sorry. Equal everything. Equal
Right.
everything. Never
I'm
fight.
totally joking. Right. No, okay. My first impression. Okay. Let me remember really quick. I can still remember the office. It was in Knitz's office. Anyways.
And I don't remember much of my college experience, but I remember
Right. Okay. So I meet Mike. And my initial reaction to him was, okay, I can't figure this guy out. He was dressed in all black and he had the cut you had back then was like kind of longer. He almost looked like an emo kid.
wait, I can still do that though.
Right. Your hair's long right now.
I haven't got a haircut in a year.
Yes. Yeah. Basically, look at this. Look at him right now. Straight up emo kid, hair always in his eyes, always flipping his hair right. So I'm like, is this guy a douche? Like, could not seem to figure it out, right? But then we talked outside of the office, right? And I was like, oh, like, what are you going to the program for? Whatever. And so we started talking. I was like, dang, this guy is so nice. And I was like, looks like a douche is nice. No, I'm just kidding. No, looks like an emo kid and is nice. Mike is literally probably one of my nicest friends ever, ever. And when you first meet him, you think he's gonna be different than what he is. Cause you've got like the e-cig and the like, you know what I mean? Like when we first met too, like, or not when we first met, but afterwards you were like super into Jameson. So you're like, you can get a wrong idea of just like those two things. But then you meet him and you like literally one singular conversation in the first 30 seconds, you realize this guy is literally the nicest person on the planet.
You're so sweet. Thank you.
Aw.
I
Okay,
just
you go.
consider myself European
You're
because
like, Geena looked like a hoe.
no, I remember seeing you in the office. I was like, oh, this looks, she looks pretty cool. I was just like,
Right.
I wasn't sure because we went to that, like Christian university. So I was just skeptical of every.
Everyone.
That's why I decided to save all those thousands of dollars and live with my parents 5 minutes down the road. Because I'm like, in my parents' house, at least I don't got to deal with all these people. Because like after having gone to a Christian high school, I got like really burned out on Christian culture.
Yes.
I'm not dogging Christian faith, but Christian culture is very different than Christian faith.
Yes.
It's all about love.
Absolutely.
And so I always kept my distance from people.
Right.
But I was just like, oh well, I remember just hoping that, I hope it's cool. And I remember, yeah, you were super nice, but the real like big impression was when we first went to the Contemporary Music Center, and that very first night we did the artist showcase. I remember hearing you. I remember I was just like, dang, this girl got pipes and you could play guitar. And I thought it was cool because you did Queen of Hearts, and so you did a little rap. And I was like, all right, I
I
like what this
forgot
girl
about that.
did. She had a little rap in her song. I'm like, okay, this is cool. So that's why it was really fun. Like while we were at the school, like always playing with you and
Mm.
being like your go-to guy. Because
Oh my god, are you about to show me a picture right now? Oh my gosh. Guys, look at that do up that I've got going on. And look at Mike.
yep, I can
Look
still.
at Mikey.
But yeah, no,
Yeah.
I thought you were super talented. It was really cool. You were extremely ambitious, which I thought was inspiring. So like that was fun, and like it was just cool. Like over the course of those couple months to like really, start our friendship and have fun. And
And we really did, guys. Like it what was kind of funny was, neither one of us knew what the other person was like. So like I had the same thing, right? Like I was like at our school where we went to college, like it's it's like half the kids go there because they're like have never experienced the world before and like kind of give you the feeling of like beating you over the head with the Bible, right? And you're like, okay, like you just haven't experienced the world, so you just don't have any balance yet, right? And then the other half are like, my parents are forcing me to go here, right? And then about 1% of us was in the gray where we've experienced life, we love the Lord, um, but we're not beating people over the head with the Bible. And I think that's what people get to, like when you're young and you just don't understand those things or whatever. But or you were kind of always like trying to figure out who was who and what was what. And
are you cool, or are you gonna like judge me if I pull out that right now?
yeah, like, are you gonna judge me if I pull out an e-cig? Are you gonna judge me that I like told you I had a drink one time? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was just always trying to figure those things out. And I think I was doing the same too. Is like, are we gonna be cool or whatever? And then what ends up happening is we go to this program together, and we just end up becoming really good friends. I mean, it was most of the time the people that I hung out with was like you, and Kyle, and
Yeah,
Pause.
he's married now. What the
Oh,
heck,
right. What in the
John?
heck? And he just did a TikTok for the first time.
Whoa, I need to watch that. John, that's gotta be fire.
Yeah.
I hope it's about pizza.
Right. Oh my gosh, that would be great. Yeah, so it was just that program was definitely. I don't know if you feel this the same way or not, which we don't have to get into that, but that program for me was like a great like launching point
Hmm.
in the fact that even in the songwriting program part, I had already I had met or was good friends with Tom, right? So Tom had done the program a year before me. So he kind of in essence, because we had written so much together, he had taught me all the things that the program had taught him as a songwriter, right?
Mhm.
So I had already kind of learned that aspect. So when we got into the songwriting class, I was like, ah, I've already learned from Rick at the time. I was like, "Rick, I actually learned all your stuff through Tom." Right? So then I was trying to look for like where's the information that I can learn in the program, right? And then so I learned a lot more on the business side, right? Of like contracts and like social media and like all of this stuff. But that got me thinking, got my wheels turning about certain things to where and then my ambition kicked in, right? And typically what happens with ambition for me, you either love me or you don't. Like
Oh yeah.
you either love that I'm so driven and so like boom about it, or you're like not about it.
I think the only reason why someone would ever be turned off from your ambition is if they feel intimidated,
You
which is
sure?
like, I'm not, I'm trying to find the words because I don't want to like say names or say, well,
Yeah, we
a
don't have the same names.
program. And I'm like, I'm not saying anyone actually felt this way, but
Right.
like in general, when someone's so driven, like for me, like my friends that are driven, like you, are like always inspiring to me and like
Mm.
are like hanging out and getting to be together and stuff is then what
Aw,
back to the studio and inspires me to work on my own thing, which I still
that's
haven't
so
done.
sweet.
So insecure, but for other people, where you're like, like if I was an artist in the artist track with you, okay,
Mm.
I would have been intimidated by your gung ho-ness, let's call it that.
Yeah, sure, sure.
I would be questioning myself, am I not working hard enough? Am I not good enough?
Yeah, sure.
And maybe there would have been a little bit of difference because I'd be like, well, I'm a guy, you're a girl, so it's different. I don't know,
Right.
but like, I don't know. So like, just being alongside you was sick, and it was awesome. And
Yeah,
like,
and seriously, you made my band so much better because literally you were like the first of all, Mike was the guitar player, right? Then all of a sudden we freaking realized that he played drums and we were like, where the frick have you been as a drummer? And so then we were like, okay, now do we have Mike play drums or guitar? We had a decent drummer, so then I was like, okay, play guitar. Which Mike is an incredible bass player, guitar player, drummer, all of the above. He truly is talented, which is it's always so funny to me when he and I have these conversations. If he's like, I'm so insecure, and I'm like, why? You're so freaking talented. And he's a little writer too, and he writes these really dope, moody little songs that
oh,
are
I know,
just amazing.
you're too sweet. Thanks. You know what I was really disappointed about going to that
Mm,
program in Nashville?
mm,
I was excited to go to Nashville so I could be at the bottom of the totem pole when it came to talent. You
sure.
know, it's so nice that you say those things. I'm not trying to say that other people. There were tons of other talented people in the track, but like, it was to the point where I was getting asked to play for every artist, and that was getting overwhelming for me. And like, in every recording studio session, and like, I
Mm,
didn't want to do that one because I wanted other people to play, and then also myself. I was like, man, I want time to like just be me as well. Like, I love
yeah.
music, but like, I literally like need sleep. I need to, watch a TV show. Like, come on.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just be a normal person, especially be in college. That was like the hard thing about that program as well is like that program was all intensive. Like it was just like
Great, in some respects, but like in Tulsa, like I was one of the best musicians in Tulsa, at least in the
mm,
scene at the time. And
mhm.
with I'm just coming out of my band and different things. Like even on a Facebook memory, random people that I don't fully know will like tag my old band, or like I had someone at Shades of Brown a couple months ago even be like, "Wait a minute, dude, weren't you in Monty Woo?" Like, yeah, that band was 10 years ago, bro. What the heck?
Monty Woo.
Like it's just funny, but like I was just like, so I was like, okay, like I wasn't saying I'm one of the best, but I was like a good musician in Tulsa. I knew myself and how I stacked up in the scene here in Oklahoma. But then so going to Nashville, I was like, okay, I am expecting to be the worst player here, and I want to
Right.
look from people that are better than me,
Mhm.
push me.
Right.
And then coming into the school and realizing like, oh, like there's like John Paz, we mentioned him earlier. He's an extremely talented musician, and his playing
Crazy
style.
talented.
I learned some things from him, but it wasn't like the same caliber of like I was expecting to show up and be like, oh, this is like a sick guitar player here, and I could like
Right.
pick his brain and learn how to improve my skills.
Right, exactly. You're like
Um,
expecting freaking like Van Halen to show up or someone and be like, dude, you should try this or something like that.
and to be honest, I don't think I'm like that great of a player. My
Mm,
strength, I think, is really more that I know how to play with other people or play my,
yes.
you know,
Yeah, yeah.
from playing in bands my whole life. It's like, okay, I don't always have to be the thing, whether it's drum
Right.
or it's like I got to play my part in contribution to what's happening.
Yeah, like you don't yeah, and I think that's what people get confused about in the creative industry is you don't have to be the best. Like you literally don't. I'm not the best at all. Oh my gosh, people can sing circles around. And I'm talking about like 16-year-olds I've seen on TikTok can sing circles around me.
Yeah, don't
Okay?
bring that up because you're still one of the reasons why I don't like singing. But
Oh my god. Stop it. Just stop. So, you know what I mean? But there's this constant thing of like if you have just the understanding that there's always someone better than you
yeah,
and just accepting that. I think that the thing that works to my advantage that keeps maybe my confidence up is that I know that even somebody like Whitney Houston had someone better than her.
right.
And there's like tons and tons of interviews of her saying my mom outsang me.
Dang,
So
yeah,
there's always somebody that's better than you, and so then it gets down to, okay, I got my own thing and I'm just gonna do what I got.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? And then I just kind of throw down, and then to me, like everything's exciting. Like I think a lot of times like people misconstrue my excitement for like confidence sometimes. Like I'll be like playing basketball, right? I played basketball my whole life. I'm pretty good at basketball. I mean, I'm out of the game now, but like
I
in
love the
my heyday,
pool.
right, in my heyday, I knew how to throw down and make some buckets, okay? So, and I would in practice just joke. Like the coach would be like, "All right, everybody line up. We're going to do sprints." And so we're all dribbling down to the end of the court, and I'd be like, "3, 2, 1." And I would just like shoot a half court shot and see if I would make it, right? Cuz I'm like, "Why not? It's fun."
Yeah,
And I would make I got to the point where I would make 1 out of 3.
no,
Okay. So imagine in practice, I shoot 3 of those, I make 1 or 2 of them, right? And I had this friend of mine that like basically started talking trash about me, right? And she was like one of my like best friends at the time. So I talked to her about it and I was like, "Yo, I've heard you've been talking trash about me. Like, like what's going on here kind of thing." And she was like, "I just feel like you're really arrogant or whatever." And I'm like, "Well, why do you feel that way?" And she
yeah,
was like, "You just be shooting half court shots in practice and like you just shoot them." And I'm like,
okay.
Okay. Did I ever say I was better than you? No, you never said that. Oh, okay. Well, like to me, it sounds like you have an internal issue. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just having fun. I'm just doing what I love doing. And at the time it was basketball. And I'm like, I just think it's fun to shoot random half court shots. And then what happens is when you're having fun in practice, then when that time comes in the game, there's a 1 in 3 chance that I'm gonna make a half court shot. And imagine how amazing that would be to make a half, you know what I mean? I'm just a person that's just like kind of like excited about what opportunities could come if I prepare myself in the right way.
Absolutely.
You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? It's just anyways, it's I don't even know why we went down that whole thing, but
it's a good driving force though, and I think that's why, you make what you make, your writing and the music you have. It's sick.
yeah, it's I think it's definitely that aspect has played a part in um I don't know, just who I am and who I am as an artist and I think actually what that aspect of my personality has ended up coming through online in a positive way.
Yeah,
People that which has actually helped me as a person. Um not that I was seeking validation, but there have definitely been some people in my life that, I relationships have fallen away because either they feel that way or whatever and I always go back to I'm like, "But that's not that, that's not my intent." Like, I don't think I'm the best person ever. Like, I don't actually genuinely think that about myself, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
I think people misconstrue my excitement, but what's happened now is that the videos that I've done where I've been like, "Yo, listen to I just wrote this song, listen to it." And then I'm listening to it, right? And I'm like, "This part right here." And I'm like freaking out and I'm like so excited, right?
Sorry,
For
if you
some reason,
release it, why would you release it?
yeah, well, for some reason, people online are just like, "Oh my god, I love your energy," like da 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 da, to where if I would have done that in a different setting, not on social media or whatever, people would have been like, "Well, you're just bragging about your song," and I'm like, "Well, first of all, if I don't like it, nobody's gonna like it. Okay, let's just be honest about that."
I don't want to release a song that I
Right. Okay. Second, second, I'm actually just pumped about how I feel about this song. I just think it's dope. Now, if you don't think it's dope, that's fine. We can have a difference of opinion, but like I'm like, "This song is the one." You know what I mean? And I'm just pumped about it.
yeah. Oh my goodness, yeah. I feel you. No, I
Yeah.
mean, I've had falling outs with people too, and I don't know if it's jealousy or different things or different people's issues. I just try to make sure that I don't give someone an excuse to like I don't wrong somebody, right?
Yeah, me too.
But at the same time, I can't if someone has insecurities or whatever their different triggers are, if I unintentionally hit that in somebody, sorry, but it's also not necessarily my fault. And I know
Yeah.
that from my own personal experience, in my own therapy, I'm like, oh, it's actually my issue, not that.
Right, yeah, and, hey, I'm not s look, let's be honest here. I am not saying I am innocent in anything. So, I've definitely again, you have your share part, right? And you realize as you get older and wiser that I am an imperfect human being and I've had, you know I've done some things and wronged some people, and the hope is that it just helps me learn in the future that I don't do that again, right? That I'm definitely not 100% innocent, at at all. I'm trying to think of, like, what's your favorite memory? I don't wanna limit it to the CMC because I feel like that's so long ago, and we have so many more memories than that. What's your favorite memory that we've had together?
Uh, mm,
I think mine was, uh, we came out, you and I ended up in California. We went and visited Kyle, and it was St. Patty's Day.
I was just thinking about that.
And it was
Oh,
me, you, and Kyle, and we have that picture of us.
yes, somewhere.
Look, yeah, we have it somewhere, and, we probably had we had such a good time. We were just kicking it, the 3 of us, catching up. It was, like, literally a year after the CMC or so. It was, like, really.
It was literally just about a year after the CMC because the very next month is when I got my first gig on tour.
Oh, yeah, what? Dude, that feels like so long
It
ago.
was. It was 6 years ago.
First of all, I remember I took take this picture, right? And it's me, me, Kyle, and Mike. I'm in the middle, okay? And we take this picture, and we're like kind of snuggled up together so we can all fit in this picture, right? And this is like back when, like, what, maybe iPhone 4S days, iPhone 5, right? Something in that time period, right? So you really, like, the camera's like at best, right? And so we take this picture. I'm like, this picture's so dope, right? It's so cool. So I post this picture, not even thinking that I was kinda dating someone at the time. And he never said anything about it, right? 3 years later, well, not 3 years, 6 years later, I've now been dating this person for 6 years, and he's like, "Yeah, so we're, like, dating for, like, 2 months, and you take this picture with these 2 random dudes that I've never seen before in my life." And I was like, "Well, I told you I went out with my friends. I wasn't, like, hiding it from you." He was like, "Yeah, no, yeah, you said that, but, like, also you were out with 2 random dudes and you took this picture basically cheek to cheek with them."
Who are these guys?
We're like, "Who are these mother—"
Semi-related, but one of my favorite memories is remember when we went to the Smoky Mountains and
Oh my
we did
gosh.
every single free alcohol taste moonshine,
You're
and then
exposing me. You're exposing me.
oh, then a couple hours later, oh, let's try the wine tasting. Oh, a couple hours later, oh,
Oh,
let's try tasting.
look, I lost that day, okay? Let's just say that. I definitely lost
I didn't pick
completely. Yeah, no, I wasn't gonna win against moonshine or wine. That's
no.
for that for sure. And it came in, like, little,
A little like almost
communion glasses. So it literally, like, wasn't a lot of amount. It literally was supposed to be just a little tasting, and not like, not something that you can get turned on at all, okay? And I am like the biggest lightweight ever. And I'm just not a big, like, drinker. I mean, Mike knows this about me. Like, I didn't really grow up in a house where, like, alcohol was a thing, so I never really got a palate for it. So I just wasn't really into Mike's the opposite, but I wasn't really into, like, alcohol like that. And I'm still not. Like, I'm way more into food than alcohol. Like, I'd much rather have a bag of chips than a glass of wine any day, okay? So, anyway, so Mike convinces me to freaking do this thing, and I'm like, "All right, like, let's do it," right? And it comes in these little communion glasses, like, really tiny. So I'm thinking I'm gonna be fine, no big deal. Well, 8 of those little glasses later of moonshine, I'm like, the whole world is spinning. My body, it must be on tilt. I feel like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Like, I am just, this whole figure is about to go down.
man. I miss my 20s. I can't drink like that no more.
Oh, that's good for you.
Multiple reasons.
Yeah,
Not what I say, but otherwise, it's like, man, I'm not the best version of myself. Uh, like that.
right.
Life,
I've what? What'd you say?
life's so disappointing.
Oh my gosh, you're like,
That's
since
like, man,
COVID.
I'm really excelling here. I was supposed to be buying a house this month and everything, but no, all my savings went to paying my bills for the last year.
Oh my God.
All
Dude,
good. Good.
dude, like, COVID has hit so many of my freaking friends. So many of my friends. I just really lucked out that my uncle's church, like, needed help with worship and stuff, and so then they hired me for, like, $200 a Sunday to help out with that, and I was like, "Great," and I'm lucky enough that I don't have a lot of bills, like, I paid off my car last year, I did some certain things, so I re not to rub it in, I feel like I'm rubbing it in, but
I'm not rubbing anything in.
yeah, so well, okay, first of all, so we're talking about drinks, okay? So then this is gonna lead us into which one is better.
All
Okay,
right.
which this is a new little section. Actually all of this is new, but this is a section of Living Like a G where we just debate on which two things are better. And I'll give you two things and then you take a stance, I'll take a stance. Some of these I feel like I know which way you're going to swing, but you have surprised me before. So, here we go.
I'm full of surprise.
Which right, exactly. Which one is better? Jameson or Maker's Mark?
I'm Irish, Jameson.
I
Oh,
knew it. I already knew.
it's the Catholic whiskey, and I'm from the north, so we're prods. So we drink Bushmills. Um,
Oh, so you're going Bushmills over Jameson?
no,
Oh,
Jameson
okay.
is betraying my heritage,
Right.
and
Yeah,
but
Jameson was so this is I did this question purposefully because I already knew the answer, okay? Jameson is Mike's
go
basically go-to.
when I'm not spending a lot of money.
Yeah. So when we were out when or we would like for instance like at the CMC we somebody would be like, "Oh, we're having a bunch of people over, right? People are like maybe mixing up some drinks." Mike would come in with a whole bottle of Jameson and probably drink most of the bottle
Back then, nah.
back then. Yeah.
Thing is, I probably could. I would just feel like trash
The next
afterward.
day. Yeah. I've
Yeah,
I've
I
seen you
feel
on
like
multiple occasions drink half a bottle and I literally would be looking at you and be like, "He still seems sober."
oh, I wasn't. I just know,
You know how to hide it.
yeah. No, it's just the Irish whiskey because it's triple distilled is always smoother at a cheaper price point. With bourbon, when you go to a cheaper price point, it starts to get a lot more bitey or like like burny and stuff. Which
Right.
burning can be all right. Like I like burning in a nice scotch or something a little bit in the back of the
You're
throat.
like, "Burning can be alright as long as it's not in your crotch."
Oh, yeah. Well,
You're like You know?
old fashioned. Don't use Jameson. Use a bourbon for an old fashioned. But
Yeah.
old fashioned also might be my least favorite cocktail. So
Yeah, old fashions to me, like, literally, I take a waft of it, a good old smell of an old fashioned, and it literally smells like lacquer. I'm like, "What in the heck is this? This smells like fuel."
there's the only version of an old fashioned I will drink is when I substitute the bourbon for Don Julio Reposado.
Oh.
So instead, I'm using a Reposado tequila as the base instead of bourbon.
Huh.
Um, yeah, that's one thing I was into for a while because, especially traveling a lot, you just always end up at a lot of cocktail bars. I'm like, man, I can only, it's I've had how many Negronis in my lifetime? I need to like change it a bit. I'm like, can we
Right.
mezcal instead of gin in my Negroni? Thanks.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Switching up. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Like a mezcal margarita, you know?
Right. Mike always finds, like, the coolest places too, like, when we both lived in Nashville, he'd be like, "Oh, you wanna meet here?" And mind you, I had lived in Nashville for, like, a while, and I was like, "What's this place he's taking me to?" And then I show up and I'm like, "This place is so dope," and I've never even heard of it. And how have I not heard of it and I've lived here for this long?
Well, it's funny you say that about me, and I'm like, I feel like I'm behind on things because I have certain friends, maybe they're a bit more influencer, but they're always telling me like, "Oh, you haven't been to this place yet? Nope." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Right. Yeah, now you know how I feel constantly.
Yeah. No, it's just if you're gonna go out of the house and spend money,
Right.
just everything should tick the boxes. The vibe,
Yes.
what you're actually buying. Like, you're probably the same way as me. I'm assuming that you hate paying for food that you could have made at home better yourself,
Oh,
right?
yes.
So if I go out,
Absolutely.
not saying I'd want to break the bank either, but if I go out to eat, like the food I'm buying from wherever I'm at better be better than whatever I can make at home.
Right, like, even when I go to McDonald's,
Yeah.
I can't make those chicken nugs.
No, I
You know
can't
what I'm
make
saying? They're not I don't have the processing to put the processing on those chicken nugs.
no.
You know
I'm
what I'm saying? No, but on a serious note though, it's definitely like if I'm gonna go out and eat and I'm gonna spend money, like if I'm going to spend money, this meal better be like good. Like it
right,
better like I don't want to say blow me away because I feel like it doesn't need to be at that level, but like
right.
I don't want to finish my meal and somebody's like, "How was it?" And I go, "Average."
Right. Like, I hate going out and buying a steak, and then you eat the steak, and you're like, "Wow, I could have made this way better at home." You know?
Yeah.
It's so dis
What?
after you spend all that money for steak, like and
Yeah.
it's the same way about, drinks, like, if I'm going out, it's like if I wanna get something that I can't make at home, and I can
Right.
make cocktails in the home, like, it but yeah, if I'm going out, I'm like, "Alright, give me something that I either have never had before, don't have the ingredients for,
Right.
or, like one of my favorite cocktails in the world is called a penicillin. I never have
Oh,
scotch, but it's basically like citrus, lime juice, like scotch, simple syrup with a candied ginger topper, a little bit of ginger.
a good old sounds like a petroleum 87.
But it's great.
Another gas fuel
Yeah.
drink.
I don't have ginger syrup or anything like that, so, like,
Right.
I go out, I'm like, "That's a drink that's, like, worth paying for," you know?
I will say like the few drinks that you've introduced me to, and again, like I don't know, I don't really need to harp on this, but I'm just not really a big drinker. But Mike has introduced me to some that if I wanted to grab a drink, they're still my go-tos, and they're the ones that you suggested to me. And it's like it's funny that like a lot of times when people think about people who are into like cocktails and into that, they think like, oh, they just always drink the hard alcohols, like the whiskeys, the bourbons, like whatever. But that hasn't been my experience with you. You've actually like suggested like really cool drinks that I ended up enjoying. And it's not like and I don't really enjoy drinks. So,
No, but the thing is if you're gonna drink, enjoy it. There's no
right.
for not, like drinking for a feeling is the worst thing you could
Oh, yeah, that's called an alcoholic.
a bit of the byproduct of enjoying what's happening.
Right, exactly. Okay, so let's do the next one. Which one is better, Death Cab or The Killers? And we might pull up uh we're gonna pull up some songs. I might have to pull it up on my phone.
Do it. I mean, alright, 2 very different bands. Love
Very
them,
different.
love them both for different reasons. I'll give you some scenarios. If you were telling me you could only listen to Death Cab or The Killers for the rest of your life, I would pick Death Cab for Cutie.
Wow.
One of my favorite bands of all time. I I've
Which
only
also makes sense because literally all the stuff that you write is in this vein.
yeah, like storytelling, semi emo, whatever. Um, but like
Semi emo.
also, I will say so. Like I've never seen the Killers live, but I've seen Brandon Flowers live. That's
Okay.
super cool. He obviously did a few Killer songs.
Mhm.
I've seen Death
Just a
Cab live
few.
4 times now. I think.
Okay.
I'll say this: I've there's very few times in my life I've fangirled.
Mm.
Meeting Justin Bieber, I did not fangirl. Meeting Ben Gibbard from Death Cab for Cutie, I mean, I was like, "Cool," but I went back to my hotel room and I went, "Oh my
My
god!"
god. Freaking out.
Yeah, I didn't wash my hand for a week after he shook it.
Oh my gosh.
Really? Well, it's like a day, but
That's what I thought would have happened to me when I met KP, when I met Katy Perry. I thought that was gonna happen to me, and I think it did to a certain extent. I was like, "Oh my god, I can't kinda believe I met Katy Perry, like, finally," like and what was weird with me for her was, I've felt like in my career that I've always danced around meeting Katy Perry, and what I mean by that is, like, I like her pastor was like a really close family friend of ours, right? So I kind of had like I was always 1 degree of separation from her in a weird way.
wait, wait,
Um and like I had another friend that like worked for her and then my cousin's grandpa who I spent a lot of time with, okay? he baptized Katy Perry, like, when she was a baby. So, like, I had, like, all these little, like, weird things, and I was like, "Okay, it feels like just, like, the universe is, like, saying you're gonna meet this person, right?" And I
Always
don't know if what'd you say?
I'm sorry, like, always one step away.
You're right, you're, like, always just 1 degree of separation from this mega pop star, right? And so I don't know if I kinda got mentally prepared in that way where I was like, I'm always just so close to meeting this person that it's gonna happen at some point. But then what also happened is when I met her, I went in and I was like, "I wanna work with Katy Perry. I don't wanna fan like, I didn't feel like I wanted to fangirl over her, and then she saw me as a fan and then as nothing else. Like, she never was to see me as, like, a fellow songwriter or a fellow performer or whatever. So, when I went into my audition, I was trying to be as cool as I could be. I mean, I was, like, trying to keep calm, but really I was internally freaking out. I remember my heart like really, really racing meeting her and just trying to be myself, but also like, I don't know. I was just trying to be myself.
Oh yeah, meeting heroes is really interesting. Like John Foreman's been one of my favorite writers and singers forever. Switchfoot was the first album I ever bought with my own money.
Mm,
I love John's solo stuff. I'll never forget where we met. Um, and the first time we met, and I was just like, this is the nicest dude in the world. And anyone that's ever met John will be like, yeah, he's magical. He's so loving. And all the Switchfoot guys are.
mm,
I'll just remember I was waiting for Switchfoot to be done sound checking. They had some issues, so I could put my band on stage. And
right.
John just looks at me. He's like, bro, we haven't met yet. What's up? I'm John. I'm like, I'm Mike. And he gave me this huge hug on the stage of the Greek Theater in LA. And I'm like, cool.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Life they made.
meeting heroes is interesting because as much as I'm like, dude, I really appreciate your art, it's
Mhm.
like it's cool to then like that person for who they are.
Yes.
'Cause you never want to be disappointed. Like the horror
Oh,
stories we hear about, like, oh, I met my hero and they sucked.
right. No, and I've experienced that as well. I've experienced like meeting somebody that I was really excited to meet and then it being very lackluster.
Mm.
Very lackluster, which is the reason why when you have a hero, you have to kinda, like, make sure you have, I don't wanna say your guard up, but certain things to protect your heart, right?
Oh,
Because you don't wanna meet that person and then, like, you feel like, "Oh, like, this person just totally didn't meet my expectations," which also it's not really fair on the other side of things, right? Like, that person has to meet all of your expectations, like, that's
unfair.
really hard for the other person to do, like, they won't just be able to be themselves either, but, just protecting yourself on not expecting people to be a certain way, because when you do and then you find out that they don't meet your expectations, it really is kinda crushing.
It sucks, and it almost ruins listening to their art or whatever it is that they do. Like, for you for the rest of time. Like
Right.
the only time like I'm really like fine saying hi to people and being casual. Like when I'd say people, I mean like celebrities type people or heroes
Yeah,
in my life I look up to. Um,
right.
but like there's one time. This is the time I fangirled the most in my life. Now I didn't do it externally because I never do it externally, but
Mm.
internally,
Yes.
fangirling the most when Gordon Ramsay sat down next to me at a restaurant.
Oh my gosh.
And the whole time I'm like, do I say
This
something? Do I not?
this is
I was trying to be like,
freaking Gordon Ramsay's.
I love everything you do. You're one of my favorite things. And I was like, oh man, but he's just trying to have dinner with a friend. Like, what if he curses me out? Wait a minute, that'd be amazing if he cursed me out.
Right, get it on film.
In my head, every single employee at that restaurant, I'm talking about every waiter, manager, kitchen manager, every single cook, busboy, host, came up and personally shook his hand at his table. And I'm like, I'm not gonna say anything now. Like, poor guy.
That should have been a sign that you could've.
I'm like, you know
'Cause
what?
he that probably meant if that many people were coming up to his table and he was cool with it, that probably meant and I've heard he's, like, super nice.
Yes.
But, I would've been like, "Oh, 10 people just came up? Bet, Imma be the 11th."
No, he was like 50. And so I'm like, he can finally talk to his friend again.
Right,
And these people came up to his table, said hi, and then left. I'm
right.
like, I'm not gonna put him
You're
under
so nice.
the guy sitting next to him.
Right.
I would like to point out he ordered the same thing I ordered.
See?
Entree
You
and cocktail.
right. You have the
Sort of
same taste. Right, yeah, like, you're way nicer than me, like this has actually happened to me before. So when I met Pitbull, okay? So
Mhm.
I I end up at this place called Grails, shout out Grails in Miami, and he so I am just there like hanging out. Like we had some people that were DJs there and they were gonna like promote some of our music and stuff. And I was like, bet, cool. We're just all hanging out, kicking it as a crew, like no big deal, right? Well, one of the owners, we just start talking and we just kind of like, I don't know, like just become friends like instantly. Like sometimes you just have that interaction with people.
Yep.
And we start talking about 7 degrees of separation and how like most of the time um nobody's further than 7 degrees of separation. And as long as you can figure out how to connect the dots, you can get to the person that you're trying to get to. Right. So, and I was like telling him, like in our career, like where we're at currently in our career, it's probably only three. So it
Yeah.
makes it even like way easier. Right. So then he sits there and he starts having this like look on his face and he's like thinking, like pondering. And I'm like, what are you thinking about? He's like, I never do this, but would you want to meet Pitbull? And I was like, I mean, no pressure, but hell yeah, I'm down to meet Pitbull. You know what I mean? So, anyways, he's like, okay. He goes, I can get you in the room with him. He's like in a separate room, right? But you gotta do the intro. Okay. So I'll get you into the room because it's a private room, but you gotta figure out how to start a conversation with him. So I was like, okay, I've worked with a lot of his people, like his artists and stuff. So I was like, okay, we have like enough in common where I could like easily start this conversation, right? So me and my manager go up to Pitbull and I'm trying to tell my manager, like, that's Pitbull. And he's like, no, it's not, no, it's not. And I'm like, dude, it is, okay. And the
Who is
reason
bad manager? It's Pitbull.
no, but the reason why he didn't believe me was is because this was the day before Halloween. So Pitbull's in costume. He's got a pilot's outfit on that says zero F's given. And he's got an afro on with aviators. So he's like, that's not Pitbull. And I'm like, dude, it's Pitbull with an afro on. So we meet him. Could not be the nicest person ever. Oh my gosh. So kind. Literally shook our hand, looked us in the face. Was just so kind. Basically, ended up connecting me and my manager to his entire team because he's working on a few albums, and now we're working with him like consistently and all this stuff. And it's like he didn't have to do any of that. And I wrote my number down on a napkin. Okay, because he was like, I'm old school. I don't even have my phone on me. Like he said, I still rock a Blackberry.
Dang. Okay.
Okay. So he's like, I don't have my phone on me, but I promise you, if you put it on a napkin, I will contact you guys tomorrow. Or or I'll end up, I think it ended up contacting us the next day. Yeah. So
What?
anyway, so freaking Pitbull, one of the top, if not the top Latin artists in the world,
Yeah.
freaking takes the time out of his day and just is like, "Hey, I believe everything happens for a reason and we met and I'm excited to work with you." And I'm like, "Bro, you're like worth over $100 million
Yeah.
and you're taking a second to talk to me. Your time is money at this point."
Yeah.
It's like, "What?" It was crazy. It was crazy.
My takeaway
So,
is blackberries are G.
yeah, facts. Still blackberries are G. But he was kind of like he had waitresses and stuff that had been coming up to him while I was like trying to scope out how I was going to get in there. So he had a few people already come up to him and shake his hand. So I was like, okay, he seems nice. Like I wasn't as nice as you. Like you were like, no, let him have, his night, cuz he wasn't by himself, he was with his family or whatever. So but I was like, no,
You're like,
I gotta take this opportunity. I'm way too ambitious. I gotta try at least once. Worst case, if he hates me, and like whatever.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
okay, wait. So back to Death Cab for a Cutie. Okay, I'm gonna play the hits of Death Cab. Okay, and which I know you will hate because you're a true fan.
I mean, not every hit. It
Okay,
depends.
here we go. You're like, this is the one I hate.
Yeah, but can I just say, when I saw them in Kansas City, they started their show like in almost the most melodramatic way. Like it was just Ben walked on stage with this acoustic and sang this song. like, and that was the start to the concert. And as soon as he
Wow.
was saying, "I will follow you into the dark," then the whole band came in behind him for the whatever song two was. But
Wow.
it was like it was pretty cool opening. I mean,
I'll show you my favorite Death Cab song. Oh god, can I find it is the question. Man.
I learned how to play that song on the mandolin during quarantine though, because I didn't know what else to do during quarantine. Oh, also because we're talking about the Killers, I learned how to play Mr. Brightside on the mandolin.
Oh my gosh. Freaking Mr. Brightside is one of my all-time favorite songs
You know,
ever.
that's my number one go-to karaoke song.
Really?
Here's the reason. I was at Austin City Limits Festival. The band I was working with, we played in the afternoon, so I had the rest of the evening off. And
Mm.
so I was just eating and drinking in the artist village. And then I realized, oh, Brandon Flowers is playing. That'd be cool. So I get someone to take me over to the stage in a golf cart, and I see him play for the first time. And when he played Mr. Brightside, I was just like, it was cool because I always loved the song, but to see it live and feel the energy is like, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Later that night, I went out in Austin. There was a karaoke bar. I was in the right frame of mind to sign up for karaoke for the first time in my life. I sang Mr. Brightside,
He
but I
was
didn't
in the right frame of mind, quote
sing
unquote.
Mr. Brightside. Like, I want you to know, I full on lead singered this thing. Like, I hope
Yes.
I was all like turning the mic at the crowd and everything. Coming out of my cage and I'll be just fine. And the whole place was going in on it, and so it was like, okay, it was super fun. So now, anytime there's karaoke, I actually sign up. But I do that song.
I think this is it.
Brothers on a Hotel Bed.
Yes. This song is just something else.
It's great.
Skies, the youthful boy below, who turned your way and
Quick shout out
saw
to both of them because
something
like
he
Death Cab
was
music.
not looking
Right.
for, both the beginning and an end. But now he lives in
Yeah. Death Cab is what I listen to when I am like uber emotional.
Yeah, it's a lot of my road trip music. It's a
Yes.
well, because on road trips I specifically like listening to full albums.
Mm,
Cab is one of those bands that actually does a good job with their full album. You feel like it is this journey. It's not just one of these like
right.
here's a couple of hits and then fillers around it. Like it's the
Yes.
itself actually flows. And then, I'm not saying there's
Mhm.
a lot of artists that do that, which is amazing.
Yeah, I'm
But
all about the journey on the album. Like I miss the days like the freaking Destiny's Child, The Writing on the Wall.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like even it has those weird in between intro tracks where they're speaking and like the writings on the wall and like all this stuff because it takes you somewhere. You're listening to it and you're like you are listening to it and it's almost like you see it in movie form even though it's all you're not seeing anything visual if that
right.
makes sense. So I always think of albums like that. I always think of an album even if you have those banger schmanger hits like you set up the album. It doesn't have to be the first top tracks or the first 4 singles you release. Like it just set it up where it has a flow, you know?
Exactly. Where do these hits fall in the story arc of the album?
Right. Okay, but first of all though, look, you already know I was going to say The Killers. The Killers are my favorite. Killers was like one of the first albums that I ever got,
Nice.
like bought with my own money, got. And first of all, I just realized that Mr. Brightside has a billion streams. A billion. What in the frick is
No,
that? Yeah,
Spotify is or
Hot Fuss is crazy, and it's just like
awesome.
the guitar intro. It's like, what?
Man, if I knew you were gonna play this, I should have got my mandolin out.
Right. Yeah, now you can play it just fine. Gotta be down. I mean, just the intro. You hear those the first bar, and you're like, this song
Oh
is
yeah,
amazing. I'm actually supposed to release a cover of it March 1st.
incredible.
Yeah, it has this like and I actually did more of like emotional version of it with this other guy, Jonah Kroll. He actually went to the CMC after us.
Okay.
So I had never met him before. But he reached out to me, he was like, "Hey, I have this cool cover of Mr. Brightside. I would love if you checked it out." And see if you wanted to be on it, right? Just very nonchalant. And I was like, oh, this guy seems nice, like whatever, right? So I check it out. I'm like, this version is absolutely breathtaking. So I was like, yes, I want to be on it. So we do this whole cool version that's now gonna release on March 1st.
Yeah, nice.
So freaking great. Okay, somebody told me.
Oh, come on. This is my dad's favorite Killing song.
Wah, 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 wah.
I can't even play this thing. I'm just, it looks cool.
Your air playing, but on a real piano. 17 tracks with this game. Got. I just knocked my water bottle over.
Oh no, the Killers have so many great tracks. That's why it's hard to pick. But it's
So many great tracks. That
I,
that that album alone is just so crazy. I do think like, Death Cab is more consistent. Like they've
right.
consistently just like this is us as a band consistently released out music, all of those things, which I know the Killers have released music recently, but like they kind of had Hot Fuss and that was like their peak,
Yeah,
right?
but, there's been good Killer songs since,
Yes.
yes, but yeah, it's kind of like when I think of the Killers, I'm going back to listen to their old stuff. With Death Cab, well, I do the same thing with Death Cab, but even like
Mm.
Death Cab's latest record is something I'll like listen to on a regular basis when they release something, and actually fully enjoy and get to know. And um, the Killers I have not seen live yet, but they're on my bucket list. Like,
Oh, I would love to see the Killers live.
there's very few bands in the world I would actually care to pay to go see.
Yeah.
That's
Same.
that sounds bad, but usually I make a call to somebody or text somebody and get a free ticket.
Let's go.
If there was no connection, no hookup, I would actually pay
Pay.
$6.
Yeah.
Tiny Moving Parts.
Mm.
They're kind of like an emo band. But they're
Shocker.
making music right
We had to
now.
get one emo band in there.
Oh, yeah, but Death Cab I always buy a ticket for.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
funny how we have those when you're in the music industry, you always or when you've been in the music industry as long as we have, you typically know someone that is like putting on that tour or they know someone or again, we're talking about it all comes back down to 7 degrees of separation, right? Like we know someone who knows someone who knows someone who can get us a ticket, right? Like there's just usually that's what happens. But what's funny is when even us as artists that are in the music industry, we understand the ins and outs. We still the artists that strike that chord in us, we still will be like, I'll support. Like I'll buy that ticket
Regardless, I mean, even
regardless.
on my end, like people, I've said this to certain people, so everybody listening, please know that I don't think I'm like the shit or anything. But there's a lot of times I get offered a free pass to a gig and I still turn it down. I don't even
Right.
think about like arena A-list gigs and I still turn it down because sometimes I'm like, no, these are my only 2 days off from tour this week.
Right.
The last thing I'm gonna do is go back to work just to hang out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Again, I think that's the thing that people have to understand about being in the music industry. And when your hobby becomes your job, it's like when somebody gives you something for free, even though it could be like a really cool show, like, it's just, it doesn't come down to, it has nothing to do with the artist or that the fact that it's free. It comes down to the fact of like sanity.
I need separation, you know?
Yeah, I have to have separation of what's going on and I have to take a break. Like if when you're a musician full time, um it's nonstop 24 hours a day from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep 7 days a week. So when you finally get that break or you force yourself to take a break, that's what I always have to do. I have to force myself not to work.
Yeah,
Then you're like, no, I can't take that ticket or whatever. So it's not a pride thing. If anybody here's like thinking that or thinking like, oh, we think we're the best or like it's not that.
here's the best example. Whenever I was working at a restaurant full time, right? I was working 5 days a week, sometimes six. On my day off, if I was going out to eat, I did not go to the restaurant
Right.
to go eat on my day off.
Facts.
Working in music's the exact same way. I'm like, this is my one day this week to not be in an arena. I
Mhm.
don't take me back to an arena for any reason. I don't care if
Right.
it's basketball, hockey. Well, maybe hockey. I love hockey, but
Yeah.
if it's basketball, hockey, a
Go
concert,
Preds.
I don't care if it's free. I'm just like, yo, I want to be away from that.
Yeah, yeah, you just need a break. It comes down to a break. It doesn't have to do with anything other than the fact that you're just like, if this is my day off, I need to take it as a day off. Like that's it. Okay, actually this leads into the last part of which one is better, okay?
Okay.
Um is which is better, tour or studio?
I obviously have more experience on tour.
Right. But you do like recording and you do like writing and you do like that time and space.
I do. Studio is totally dependent on vibe, right?
Mm,
Tour is like, even if you have a gig that's a little bit more boring, like the crowd wasn't as hype or something like this, usually you have like another few weeks of real hype crowds that make up for that one kind of whatever night. Where the studio, you
right.
kind of have that time, it's there now. Different vibes. I will say though, my experience like playing out and gigging like is way limited. So most of my tour experience is being a tech,
Mm.
uh, setting up, tearing down.
Which still I would still count under that umbrella. Like I'm not saying you have to be like the personal one to tour. It could be either form. But go ahead.
So because I love travel, I think I would still pick touring, but would I rather be in the studio recording or out on the road being a guitar tech? I'd rather be in the studio playing,
Okay.
you know?
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel that.
What if it was like going out on tour playing versus going to the studio playing? I'm like, take me out on tour to play.
Right, exactly.
Live gigs is where it's at for me. Like
Yeah.
I've never had real stage fright, which is
Mm.
funny because growing up, I was an extremely shy kid. I actually had no friends until I was about like 9 years old because I was too shy to talk to anybody.
Oh my gosh.
My insecurities as a child were just insane.
What a little weirdo how you started out.
And so, but
You were like low key destined to be a psychopath, but somehow ended up normal.
exactly. But for some reason, anytime I was on stage in front of people,
Mm.
like I felt fine and comfortable.
Hmm.
I was the kid that was nervous to read aloud in class, but if I was on a stage about to play an instrument, I had no nerves.
Yeah.
Even
Weird.
9 years old till now. And so it's like there's something about the stage that feels home, and I feel that extra boost of energy to rock out, be wild,
Yeah.
feel the music and stuff. And like
I mean, I'm right there with you. Like to me, again, everything is done in music to get it to the stage.
right.
So, like, to me, it always like when you write a song, you want to perform it on a stage. When you do when you create merch, you're wanting to sell it of where the stage is. Like, it's just to me, it like the stage is the center of it all. Although, I know that the art is the center of it all, really technically, but how the art is communicated is to me where the success is. So, and I am obsessed with the presence of tour, like the tour stuff and like tour presence and like all of that stuff. Like to me it always the energy is unparalleled. um the traveling part of it I like too. I get to see the world. Random freaking people that you meet that you get random freaking stories about. Like what's your randomest story you have of someone that you met on tour?
Mm. If you have one, you go first because I'm trying to decide what's the difference between people I've met on tour and just random in real life while traveling.
What
Can't
was
remember.
someone random that I met that was just
One,
okay, this is something random. I this ended up actually being helpful to my career in a weird way.
okay,
I actually have two too as well, but okay, I'll say this one first. I show up to this pizza joint, okay? Um, I was playing at the fair that was like around the corner from the pizza joint. My aunt lived in the area. She goes, "Yo, there's this new cool, like really tasty pizza joint called Wally's Pizza. Let's go there for dinner." I said, "Okay." So I show up for dinner. I always have like a CD, a business card, something on me, right? The owner of that restaurant starts walking around to the tables, introducing himself. Hi, hi, nice to meet you. Thank you for coming. Whatever. He gets to our table. My aunt, God bless her soul, starts gushing about me. Which I'm like, in my head, I'm like, "Stop, Aunt Kareem," but I'm like, keep
Yeah,
going,"
I know.
like, whatever. And he goes, "Oh, you're a musician?" He was like, "Well, we have music here every Tuesday and Thursday night. Do you have, like, a CD or something on you?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I do." So I hand him Lose Control, right? What a throwback, Lose Control. And, and I hand it to him. He goes and listens to it in the back. He comes back and says, "Hey, I want you to come in on Thursday, um, like, just do, like, 3 songs, like, you and your guitar." And I said, "Okay." So I come in on Thursday, I play like 3 songs. The bar like freaks out. They have me come play on that Tuesday night. And and then he then connects me to this guy in Tahoe. He goes, "We this restaurant that we started is a spinoff of a restaurant in Tahoe. And I know the owner that owns all the restaurants up there, and they have music 365 days a year." And he was like, "I'm gonna connect you to him and start playing." So basically, all from this restaurant, this little pizza joint in Cameron Park that has amazing Thai chicken curry pizza, by the way. If you're ever in Cameron Park or just in Northern California, hit up Wally's. They're so good. But yeah, I meet this one random guy, and he's the whole reason why I was able to become a full-time musician as early as I was, because I started playing those shows in Tahoe, and that instantly took my show amount from 50 shows a year to literally 100 plus.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yep.
Random. That's a random one. I have some funny ones too, but okay, you go.
It's like that's the entire way my career came to be, you know? I mean,
Right.
like oh, I mean, personal travels, like, I remember being in Germany, and me and my friend Jake were, like, asking our waitress, like, "Yo, what's some cool places to go in this town," or blah, 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 and she's like, "Oh, well, I get off in an hour. I'll show you guys," you know? And, like, oh, she shows us, and then the very next night, like, she's like, "Oh, me and my boyfriend and our friends are going to this club. You should come with us." And we're like,
Mm,
Okay, sure." So we
okay.
meet at the club and then realize, oh, they bought a VIP booth and everything. Dope. And
Oh, sick.
and partied and didn't pay for a dime and this and that based upon someone we were just nice to someone, they were nice back.
Right.
I've made numerous friends on airplanes before.
Yep.
I met this girl sitting next to me on the plane on a flight to London, and we were
Right.
we were chilling, talking. It was cool. And then like when we got to London, she was like, "Oh, I'm just traveling solo." I'm like, so in between me seeing other people or this and that, like me and her would kick it, be like, "Oh, I don't got dinner plans. If you need someone to eat dinner with, we can go meet up or whatever, you know." But career wise, like it's been like it's all what you were just saying, like how that worked out for you at the pizza joint. Like that's literally just me. My
Yeah.
roommate at time referred me for a job that I was underqualified for. I felt like I was underqualified for. And then while I was touring with Drew Holcomb and the Neighbors, um, I got to know his wife and different people, this and that. At the end of touring with him that year, I run into his wife's drummer, Ellie Holcomb's drummer,
Mhm.
and she says, "Hey, I know this band that's looking for guitar tech. You looking for work?" I say, "Yeah." So then I end up touring the rest of the year with another band, and while I'm on tour with that band, we were opening for a much larger band at that time. And then fast forward 2 years, I went on arena tour with that band, you know,
See?
and then yeah, and then even still, like I was out with Drew Holcomb and the Neighbors a couple years ago. I met we were doing a gig with Jude and the Lion, and I met like their guitar tech, and I knew some of the other guys that worked for them or whatever, and those guys. But I just remember he was like the guy that was out with Judah was like Matt Carney's go-to guy, and when he
Mhm.
was out on tour with Judah, he needed someone for Carney, and so and I also know their manager and stuff. So like
Easy connect, easy connect.
another one to hey, what are you doing? We're looking for somebody, you know?
We're looking for you.
The biggest thing is just don't be a jerk. And
Yes.
people don't need to be wowed, right?
Yeah, they don't.
Want people to be nice and real.
Yeah, they just want people just want kindness, especially on the road. And I think that's too like why I like touring so much too, is it's never the same.
Yeah.
It
I mean,
like, you never I mean, like, some things are the same, right? Like, some things can get a little bit monotonous, but, like, for the most part, like, you play a show, you start interacting with people, then somebody invites you to some random thing, and you're like, "You know what? I'm usually not tired, or I usually am tired, but you know what? I'm gonna go out tonight." Like I've in Canada, that happened to me a lot. Canadians are so nice. I played like one show and they were like, "Hey, we're heading to this place called I think it's called Cactus or something out there." And I was like, "What's this place called Cactus?" Like it's super cool. Like it's like a chain in Canada, but it's like really good food and whatever. So I show up and have the best food of my life at this place called Cactus. And still to this day, like I think back about Cactus.
Yeah. I mean, I was in Kelowna, British Columbia for a gig, and we went to this brewery, and they heard that we were part of a band and this and that, and so they shut the brewery down, let us stay late,
Yes.
and gave us an unofficial tour of everything and free, and it was great. And like, I mean, yeah, traveling's always great. Like when I was in Cape Town, South Africa, I had one friend that lived there, so I went up, I saw him, and that was it. But I was there for a few days and seeing stuff by myself. My Airbnb was right above this cool like bar restaurant thing that would be kind of a mini club on the weekend. I made friends with all the employees because they knew, oh, you're the dude upstairs, you know. And
Right.
my last night in Cape Town, like, oh, we gotta take you out, and so they take me to all these clubs in Cape Town, VIP
Yes.
backdoor vibes. It's just like
That's
sick.
what's the best. The best is when you get like the intro into the culture that you're like staying in at the time. Like some local takes you and shows you the thing that like no Google site will ever find for you.
No, even the most like indie hip bloggers or whatever still can't find what a real local does, and that's my favorite
Right.
thing about travel. Like when I go to Paris, like I don't care about all the, things that I have seen in my history books about Paris. I care about, all right, if I like grew up in Paris and lived here, what would
Right.
20-year-old Paris might be doing right now?
Yeah, exactly.
Where would I be? Where would I be eating?
Right.
And that's my favorite part about travel and experience. And then usually I find people a bit like me and end up having these stories of that
Right.
memories I can't replace or would have never thought to have.
Yeah, when you start traveling more and you start seeing people and how they interact, you realize that most people are kind. And what you see on TV is showing the very small percentage of people that aren't. And like how does it make sense that you went to a completely other country and you just struck up a conversation with someone random and they're just like, "Hey, we're doing this tonight," and it totally ended up fine. Like you weren't sex trafficked, you weren't, you know what I mean? Nothing. It was just a normal night that you would probably, if they were a friend of yours, it would just be a normal night between you and your friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the more you travel, you just realize like there are a ton of kind, unbelievably kind people, and I can say that from experience as well of like touring. Like almost every time I went on the road, somebody offered for me to stay with them the next time I came out, and I
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's just
Cool.
understanding like, you have, if you haven't seen all of the world yet, or haven't dabbled in travel. I didn't mean to rhyme that really, but but yeah, if you haven't dabbled in travel, yeah, exactly. You
Podcast, dabble in travel.
might, yeah, you might think that people aren't kind, but most of the people in the world are pretty kind, and they just want to hang out with other kind people. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. It's simple. So tour.
Right.
That's
So tour for the both of us.
but also,
Uh
okay, outside of the travel aspect, I would say nothing replaces live music.
correct.
Like I love listening to recordings, but I'll be honest, you know what I did a lot of in 2020? I
Mm.
watched a lot of YouTube videos of live performances by artists instead of just playing it on streaming it, just streaming
Yep.
it. There's
Yep.
an energy that comes live
Yes.
from players, from hearing it and experiencing it. Now, a live recording isn't the same as actually being in the room, but
Mhm.
nothing replaces that. My favorite memories were always at concerts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My favorite things are always at concerts. I walk away from a concert feeling like electrified. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh my god, do you remember this? Do you remember that?" Like again, there's just so many things that happen on tour that you're just like, "Ah, this is so great." It's exhausting, but it's great.
Yeah.
Well, that is the podcast Living Like a G. Thank you, Mike, for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I get so excited when I get to have friends that I truly love and adore, and it somehow comes together with what I'm doing. I always like Mike's been the friend to me that has, whenever we are in the same city, we always link up. We always get to hang out. He's just been a really great friend and a really great person. Please make sure to follow him and all of his stuff. First of all, he is like such a little artist creator. His posts are like unbelievably artistic. And we didn't even get to really talk about that, how creative you are and stuff like that. But definitely go check out of his out all of his stuff. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
You've been
Peace.
wasting time on all the same things. So come and get a taste of what you're missing. Boy.